12:30 p.m., November 22, 1963. The roar of the Dallas crowd, the motorcade turning onto Elm Street, and then, the silence was shattered. 3 precise shots fired into the American psyche. We know what happened, we know where. But for 60 years, the most chilling question remains unanswered. Who were the men who engineered the ultimate political execution? And more importantly, who was powerful enough to ensure the world never found out? The official story, delivered by the Warren Commission, is simple. A deeply disturbed, anti-American ex-Marine, named Lee Harvey Oswald, perched on the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository, acted alone, a lone wolf, a madman who killed the president using a cheap bolt-action, Italian rifle. But the moment you start to pull on that thread, the entire narrative unravels. The rifle was widely criticized for its inaccuracy and slow rate of fire. Yet Oswald, a supposedly mediocre marksman, managed to fire 3 shots, hitting the moving target twice, in approximately 8.3 seconds. That feat, according to professional marksmen, is virtually impossible. Oswald was the perfect patsy. He had known communist ties, a history in the military, and a strange, almost choreographed public profile. He had motive and means, but crucially, he lacked the sophistication, the training, and the logistical support required to pull off the greatest assassination of the 20th century. The system protecting him failed immediately. Within 48 hours, Oswald was silenced, shot point blank by Jack Ruby, local nightclub owner with deep, documented ties to organized crime. If this was truly the act of a lone madman, why the elaborate setup? Why the quick, neat, and highly irregular elimination of the primary suspect? The answer lies in the 2 powerful factions Kennedy had brutally antagonized, both of whom specialized in making problems disappear. We're talking about the mob and the rogue elements of the Central Intelligence Agency. The mob's motive was not just revenge, it was survival. When JFK took office, he appointed his younger brother, Robert F. Kennedy, RFK, as Attorney General. RFK immediately declared an unprecedented, relentless war on organized crime. The mob bosses saw JFK as a direct betrayal. They had worked closely with his father, Joe Kennedy, and had even used their influence to secure votes for JFK in key states like West Virginia and Illinois. They felt entitled to protection. Instead, they got the fiercest federal crackdown in history. Sam Giancana in Chicago and Santos Trafficante Jr. in Tampa were the most powerful men targeted, and Trafficante had a documented history working alongside the CIA on assassination plots. See, the relationship between the mob and the CIA wasn't casual. It was strategic. After the Bay of Pigs disaster at pivotal moment, returned to the CIA, desperately needed the mob's help. They wanted to use Trafficante and Giancana's connections in Havana to assassinate Fidel Castro. But the Kennedy administration abruptly canceled many of these collaborative operations, leaving the mob bosses exposed, frustrated, and holding a severe grudge. Giancana once complained to an associate, "The Kennedys owe me. If they keep this up, I'm going to take care of it myself." Now, let's revisit Jack Ruby, the man who killed the patsy. Ruby wasn't just a friendly club owner. He was a courier and muscle for Trafficante's organization, often running weapons and money between Dallas and Havana. His proximity to Oswald was not a coincidence. It was the perfect, low-level cleanup operation executed by the first conspiratorial layer, the mob. But while the mob provided the immediate muscle and the subsequent silence, they lacked the political access and the intelligence infrastructure required for the ultimate systemic cover-up. For that, you need professionals. You need the deep state. If the mob was motivated by financial survival, the CIA was motivated by power, pride, and policy. John F. Kennedy inherited the Cold War. In his handling of 2 key crises, permanently alienated powerful figures within the military and the CIA. First, the Bay of Pigs invasion in 1961. The plan, inherited from the Eisenhower administration, was an agency-backed paramilitary operation to overthrow Fidel Castro. When Kennedy realized the operation was doomed, he refused to commit U.S. air support, ensuring its spectacular failure. The CIA felt humiliated, betrayed, and publicly exposed. They blamed Kennedy personally. The fallout was immediate and venomous. JFK fired CIA Director Allen Dulles and Deputy Director Richard Bissell. He famously threatened to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the winds. These weren't just bureaucrats. They were the architects of the Cold War. Dulles was a master of clandestine operations. When he was fired, he didn't just retire. He joined the Warren Commission, the very body investigating the assassination of the man who fired him. This is not coincidence. This is strategically placed influence. Second, JFK's foreign policy shift. After the harrowing Cuban Missile Crisis, Kennedy began exploring détente with the Soviet Union and, critically, started making moves to pull U.S. troops out of Vietnam. To the military-industrial complex and the hawkish elements of the CIA, this was treason. Kennedy was an obstacle to the perpetual war machine. The key operators in this layer were the anti-Castro Cuban exiles and the rogue CIA contractors. They were connected to men who had the training to execute a precision kill in broad daylight and then vanish. These were the true men behind the curtain. So, on November 22nd, you have a perfect storm. The mob, motivated by revenge and federal pressure, providing the cleanup crew, Ruby, and the clearest proof that multiple shooters were involved and that the cover-up was systemicalized in the cold, hard, unyielding facts of the forensic evidence. The Warren Commission needed to prove that Oswald, firing from the 6th floor depository, was the only shooter. But if there were only 3 shots fired, and the final one was the fatal headshot, how did 2 men JFK and Governor John Connally suffer 7 different wounds between them? The answer was the magic bullet. The official conclusion states that CE-399 entered Kennedy's upper back, exited his throat, paused in midair, radically changed direction, entered Governor Connally's back, fractured his 5th rib, shattered his radius bone in the wrist. A bullet cannot change direction in midair. A bullet traveling at terminal velocity that fractures a rib and shatters a wrist bone cannot emerge pristine. This single piece of evidence, required to maintain the lone gunman theory, is a forensic impossibility. It screams manipulation. It proves, beyond a reasonable doubt, that either the number of shots, the number of shooters, or both, were misrepresented, and the Zapruder film confirms the lie. Watch frame 313. Physics dictates that the kinetic force of a bullet should propel the object forward. Yet, Kennedy's head snaps violently back and to the left. This movement is the definitive signature of a shot fired from the grassy NOLA frontal or lateral position that required a second, trained marksman. A shooter placed there by the rogue CIA elements or the mob. If the forensic team and the Warren Commission had admitted the existence of the magic bullet trajectory was false, they would have had to admit a second shooter. Admitting a second shooter means admitting conspiracy. Admitting conspiracy means exposing the CIA agents and the mob bosses who planned it. The cover-up wasn't just about hiding a secret, it was about protecting a system. When we look at the men who killed Kennedy, we aren't looking for one face. We are looking for the convergence of 3 dark paths: the resentment of the mob, the operational capability of the rogue CIA, and the institutional protection offered by powerful figures who stepped in immediately after the tragedy. Men like Allen Dulles, or even Lyndon B. Johnson, whose ascension ensured the continuation of the military machine JFK was trying to dismantle. The truth is not that a single, grand master plan was orchestrated by one shadowy figure. The truth is far more terrifying. Multiple powerful entities, each with a profound motive, seized a rare and volatile opportunity. They worked in concert, not necessarily through direct communication, but through a consensus of conspiracy. And when the shots were fired, the systemic power of the United States government moved immediately, not to find justice, but to ensure that the official lithomyth of the lone gunman would become the permanent record. The files have been partially released, but the complete truth remains guarded, because exposing the full scope of the conspiracy would expose not just the killers, but the very system designed to protect them, and that, perhaps, is the greatest mystery of all. What historical event do you think has the most disturbing, untold truth? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want us to dive deeper into the terrifying lives of the mob bosses who plotted this revenge, make sure to subscribe.